So before we actually get into the video, I really need to talk to you guys about the OneFootball app, because if, like me, you support not just your favourite team, but also you love watching football from all around the world, then OneFootball really is the perfect app for you. Whether you want team news, player statistics, league tables from around the world, OneFootball has you covered. And of course, every single week a game in Serie A which you can watch live at literally zero cost. OneFootball really is the perfect app to follow football all around the world, and of course those updates on your favourite team. If you're interested, make sure to use the link in the description down below or scan the QR code on screen now. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today, finally, we are talking about Manchester United winning a trophy thanks to their 2-0 win over Newcastle United in the Carabao Cup final. We finally got to see some of these players lifting a trophy. Ten Hag lifting a trophy. It's felt like a long time coming. 6 years since Manchester United won a trophy. However, when Erik ten Hag was first appointed at the club, what I told you guys was, give him time, he will win trophies. And that has happened. Now, I must say, I kind of advertised before the season started that Erik ten Hag would win trophies playing really beautiful football. And I dare say he will go on to do that at the club. However, that's not what we saw in this game. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I think this game, more than any other game this season, really kind of showcased what Erik ten Hag has done so brilliantly with the team this season. And that is, he's adapted. Now, I'm not talking about the way that he has adapted recently with halftime changes. Yes, he did make another brilliant halftime switch, which won Manchester United the game. However, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about adapting, one, to your opponent, but also to the ability of your squad. Erik ten Hag kind of came into this game knowing that his team were basically knackered from their performance against Barcelona on Thursday. Manchester United played an incredible amount of football recently, and it is showing the players are fatiguing. So what does ten Hag do? He decides not to play with such a crazy intense press as what sometimes the club does, and instead he let Newcastle have the ball. Newcastle are very good when they sit off in their low block, and they're very difficult to break down. We didn't see Manchester United attempt to break down a low block once in this game. And that was because Manchester United seemed quite happy for Newcastle to have the ball. So, once again, I think Erik ten Hag adapted brilliantly. So, let me fix this screen and get the tactics board up. So, as I was saying there, Newcastle United were very much the team that dominated the ball in this game with around 60% possession by the end of the match. And that was a theme throughout the game. Newcastle dominating the ball, trying to break Manchester United down. And as a result, it meant that Manchester United weren't pressing quite as high as what they normally do. The centre-backs were allowed to receive the ball from the back from carriers. However, this did still trigger a form of press from Manchester United, particularly when Shah got the ball on the right-hand side of the defence here. This triggered Marcus Rashford to make the bending run, cutting off the pass to Trippier, whilst also applying pressure to the ball. This then meant that Weghorst was on Botman, so Rashford's kind of taken two players out here. Bruno Fernandes then goes on Guimaraes, Fred on Joel Linton, Casemiro on Longstaff, Shaw on Almiron, Dalot on St Maximin, and basically Manchester United are now pressing man-to-man all over the pitch, which means, as a result, it is quite difficult for Newcastle to progress the ball. And that was what we saw, basically. All game long, Newcastle really struggled to get the ball moving forward into dangerous areas of the pitch. And when we're talking about a dangerous area of the pitch, the big area that we are talking about is the centre. That is where most goals come from. That is where big battles are won in midfield. This is where Newcastle couldn't really get the ball. What Newcastle are very good at doing is using the quality of Guimaraes and then the size and the ball carrying ability with the work rate of Longstaff to really overrun a lot of teams' midfielders. Manchester United basically stopped the ball going into this area. Now, as a result, this did mean that Newcastle could build the ball in wide areas, and that is essentially what Manchester United forced them to do. So essentially, the way that Newcastle done this was by moving Dan Burn a little bit deeper in build-up phases to form more of a back three. This pushes Trippier forward, and as a result, they are now 3 versus 2 up against Weghorst and Rashford. Whereas previously it was man-to-man, it's now 3 versus 2, so Newcastle can work the ball forward a little bit easier. And what this is going to cause is a problem down the right-hand side for Manchester United. Because with the Newcastle back 3 outnumbering the Manchester United front 2, it meant the ball could be progressed forward to someone like Trippier, and Manchester United now had a problem because Almiron and Trippier are 2 versus 1 against Luke Shaw. We know that this is by far Newcastle's most dangerous side this season. Almiron is one of the club's top scorers, Trippier one of the best creators in the Premier League, let alone in this Newcastle squad, and this was a problem for Manchester United. Particularly with Rashford kind of getting drawn out, we could see Almiron kind of drifting into this area, and it asks a question of Luke Shaw. Does he go tight to Almiron and let Trippier have the ball? Does he go out to Trippier and let Almiron have this space? This is obviously going to cause a problem. Now, the other reason that this causes a problem is because Casemiro isn't sure whether he should be picking up Almiron or should he be going for Longstaff here. So again, it asks questions of the Manchester United players, and at times Newcastle did have overloads. With Lisandro Martinez not always wanting to be out here in this area because he's got to defend the space behind him, it did mean that Newcastle could create this 3 versus 2. However, what I thought that Manchester United done brilliantly was covered for each other. So Newcastle have got the overload here initially. However, Manchester United just didn't let that sustain. It could be the other way around with Fred and Casemiro, but Manchester United, they worked their socks off for each other. So initially there's an overload, however Fred is going to put a real shift in to get over there. Bruno Fernandes is going to put a shift in, and also Weghorst. Rashford we know tends to sit a little bit higher, so maybe it gives Newcastle the free man when Manchester United midfielders have been dragged out of position. So Guimaraes could now become the free man, but not when Weghorst is putting in the shift that he put in this game. His defensive shift was absolutely incredible. I think on the ball, he done a few things that were a little bit off, but his work rate off the ball was just absolutely incredible. You can see how much this move means to him. I mean, at full time, it's the first trophy he's ever won in his career, in his senior career, and at full time, he basically just sat there and admired it all. And they asked him for an interview, but he couldn't. He was in tears, hugging Ten Hag, thanking him for the opportunity. And it really showed in the performance how much his club means to him, or how much it just means to him to be given this chance to play for a team like Manchester United. The shift that he put in from a defensive point of view was incredible. And it's the case for the whole Manchester United squad. The area where Manchester United did struggle a bit more was down on this right-hand side. Manchester United's right-hand side, that is, with St. Maximin up against Dalot. Especially with Dalot getting the early booking, there could have been a potential for a real problem here. However, Antony, I thought, done a brilliant job of doubling up. Antony, again, a player which has been criticised since joining Manchester United. However, it's unfair criticism. He is one of Manchester United's most important players. I genuinely believe that. I think the attacking balance when he is on the pitch is very important. However, that was not the side that we saw in this game. What we saw in this game was his defensive work rate. Again, there was the potential for St. Max against Dalot to be 1 versus 1. We know how good St. Maximin is at dribbling. Dalot isn't the best 1 versus 1 defender. So Antony made sure that he wasn't getting into these 1 versus 1 situations. And when St. Maximin was getting past a pair of them, there was Casemiro, once again, breaking up the play. In the first half, Manchester United just done an incredible job of covering for each other. A real team performance. However, the problem that this did cause a little bit, especially with Antony coming so deep and Weghorst also, was that Manchester United didn't have the same threat on the counter-attack which they normally do. Rashford becoming a little bit isolated on the left-hand side. When he did get the ball, a lack of options really. So the first half, Manchester United somehow go in at half-time 2-0 up. I thought Newcastle were the more threatening, not even the more threatening team, the more dominant team in terms of in possession. However, they didn't cause problems for David De Gea. Manchester United showed in this performance how you control a game without having the ball. Then they get the goal from the free kick, and I actually think the free kick kind of came because of Marcus Rashford's quality. Rashford gets the ball in this wide area. It's kind of the first time in the game we saw him in this sort of position. He's got Trippier, I think it was at the time, backpedaling towards his own goal. And Newcastle are so scared of him that Guimaraes comes over and just barges him over. I've seen people questioning whether it was a free kick. I think it's pretty blatant. I can't believe there's even a debate about it. But it came because Newcastle was scared of the threat of Marcus Rashford. And that is the effect that Marcus Rashford has at the moment. He is just got that aura about him. Teams are terrified of giving him any space. Guimaraes bowls him over, gives away the free kick. Casemiro scores the free kick from a Luke Shaw cross. Manchester United 1-0 up. And then the second goal, some good work from Marcus Rashford and Weghorst kind of scrapping it out, winning the ball. Rashford then has that tenacity to get into the box. And again, scores the goal. There's a bit of fortune about it, but it comes from getting into those areas. And I'm glad he's been given the goal. Botman doesn't want the goal. Rashford does want the goal. Give it to Marcus Rashford. It now has been. Manchester United go into half-time at 2-0 up. However, Ten Hag again makes changes which really helped Manchester United in the second half. So half-time saw two big changes in this game. Aaron Wan-Bissaka comes on for Dalot, whilst Isak comes on for Longstaff, which means that Manchester United have maintained their usual shape. However, Wan-Bissaka we know offers a bit more defensive security, particularly on 1 versus 1s up against St. Maximin. But also what Newcastle have now done by bringing on Isak, a striker for a midfielder, is shifted to more of a 4-4-2. And I'll be honest, I don't think this change worked for Newcastle at all. I think Eddie Howe got it wrong. Now, it depends if it was forced or not. If it was a forced substitute with Longstaff getting injured and a lack of options on the bench, then you can't really say he got it wrong. He didn't have much of a choice. However, if he kind of made the conscious decision to go to a 4-4-2, it just didn't work. And this is why. The reason why is because Newcastle are now going to have even more of the ball than what they did in the first half. Manchester United are 2-0 up. They have no reason to push forward. They can sit back, kind of protect their defence, which they had been doing brilliantly all game, and then hit in transition where we know they are so good. So this invited Newcastle forward. However, what Newcastle have done is they've now given themselves two central midfielders. So now Bruno Fernandes can go on Joel Linton, Fred can go on Bruno Guimaraes like this, or again it could be the other way around like this. Either way it doesn't matter, Manchester United are man for man, but now Casemiro is the free man. And there isn't a better midfielder in world football from a defensive point of view to have as your free man. Because it means that if Newcastle go long, then Casemiro can either go up and compete for the header, or he can be on the second ball, or he can cover round behind the defence forming a back three, so he's in there. The other option is if someone like St. Maximin down this side is going to break free, come inside, get the ball, Casemiro is the free man who can come across and sweep it up. The same happens on the other side as well. It could be Trippier with Rashford higher, stepping forward, but because Casemiro is the free man in the midfield now for Manchester United, he is able to once again come over and break up play. And again, in these games, in all games, but in these big games, his experience, his reading of the game, it's just incredible. Manchester United have something which they haven't had for years. It's a street smart about the side. It really is just absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, we do have to talk about the substitute, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who put in a world-class performance. I thought he'd done pretty decent on the ball as well, carrying the ball forward. But from a defensive point of view, he completely took out St. Maximin. He made the most tackles of anyone in this whole game, despite only playing 45 minutes. It's the most tackles in a Carabao Cup final since N'Golo Kante the other year. However, when N'Golo Kante done it, he played 120 minutes. Aaron Wan-Bissaka done it in 45 minutes. St. Maximin did not have a sniff in the second half. Wan-Bissaka was taking him out constantly. And what this does also is it now gives Manchester United more attacking ability. Because Anthony, you could kind of sense it, now knows, I don't have to work quite as hard to get back and help out my fullback, because my fullback is now so much better defensively. So again, Erik ten Hag deserves just so much credit for the way that he managed this game, and Newcastle just couldn't get into it. And it now means that Manchester United are winning the ball, counter-attacking. The Newcastle centre-backs, with the lack of passing option in midfield, are being forced to kind of take risks on the ball, stepping forward. But this means that Manchester United can pounce out, win the ball, and then counter-attack again. And it really was just a perfect defensive performance from Manchester United. Ten Hag still had a few more changes to make with Sabitzer, McTominay and Jadon Sancho coming on, mainly for fresh legs, but also to get Fred off because he was booked. And again, it's going to do the same thing for Manchester United. And it also now frees Marcus Rashford as the runner in behind. And with Sancho, like I said, or Anthony previously, not having to track back as much, it now gave Manchester United a real threat on the counter-attack. So they were stopping Newcastle from progressing the ball because they were going man for man in midfield. Casemiro was the free man, sweeping up absolutely everything. And now Manchester United, with Rashford, Sancho and Bruno Fernandes in the front line, have the opportunity to pounce. And realistically, despite what the XG will suggest, Manchester United should have scored 3 or 4 goals. They didn't actually create great chances in transitions, however, the opportunities that they had were phenomenal. Bruno Fernandes late on should score. There were so many situations where a bit more quality from Manchester United would have won them this game. However, the attack wasn't quite on it, I will be honest, but the defence was just incredible. Luke Shaw, Lisandro Martinez, Rafael Varane, Wan-Bissaka all played incredibly well. Casemiro protecting them was brilliant. The work rate of Fred in that midfield, but also Sabitzer and McTominay when they came on, perfect fresh legs at the right time again, completely disrupted the Newcastle midfield. They had that threat on the counter-attack all day long. David De Gea, when called into action, done brilliantly, and to be honest, he had a bit of a quiet game, but I thought his passing was good. He dealt with a couple of corners quite well. In general, it's just a really, really good day for Manchester United. I think long-term, Ten Hag will want to play a different type of football on these occasions. However, again, like I said right at the start of the video, he has adapted so well to this Manchester United squad. He knows they are not built to control every game against the best teams, particularly those that are good at pressing. However, in this game, he's happy to kind of sacrifice that possession play on the counter-attack, and it worked just perfectly. Eddie Howe, I think, got it a little bit wrong. I think Isak should have started the game over Callum Wilson. I think we saw the threat that Isak brought in the second half, just something a little bit different. And I'm not sure about that halftime change, the change in shape. It might have been forced, so I can't be too critical. However, I just think in the big moments his changes didn't affect the game in the same way which Ten Hag's did. And overall, it was just a really efficient and effective performance from Manchester United. It wasn't a bit like that sentence. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't glamorous football from Manchester United. However, it got the job done, and ultimately in cup finals, that is what you have to do. Manchester United showed their nasty side at times, making fouls just to break up the play, slowing the game down, which Newcastle are normally really good at. Manchester United kind of beat them at their own game, and for me, were deserved winners. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure you guys did as well. Get in the comments down below, let me know what you thought. Who was your man of the match? For me, it has to be Casemiro, but you guys might say someone different. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the celebrations, and I will see you in the next one.